Hello, fellow Shadow Explorers. Welcome to another episode of Shadow Talkers. We're so happy to have you here. I'm RulyWolf, and as always, I have MoonDog with me.
MoonDog, hey.
Woohoo! All right. So, as always, I think we have an exciting show for you, but I'm biased, so there's that. We're going to talk about encounters of the first kind a little bit. But before we actually delve into what an encounter of the first kind is, I want to tell you about J. Allen Hynek. He was actually the one who defined what a UFO encounter was. So he was an astronomer who was the director at the Ohio State University's McMillan Observatory. And while he was there, the U.S. Air Force enlisted him to help them with Project Sign, which that's a whole other thing that we will get into another day. So stay tuned for whenever we do that one. And because he was not only an astronomer who could explain away astronomical events in the sky. So, you might see something in the sky that's weird, and he would be the guy that's like, oh no, it's okay. That's just a, meteor or whatever. On top of having that background, he was also previously working for the U.S. government developing defense technologies. So that meant he already had a high security clearance, and they didn't have to, read him in on anything or, do that. I don't know about back then, but I know now security clearances are an expensive thing. So if you have somebody who's already got one, it's easier to just, read them in and have it all up to date. So what he came up with was a categorization of sightings. And so that starts with nocturnal lights. Again, that kind of could almost be misconstrued as a meteor or comet. More than likely not, but it's just one of those things. So you've got nocturnal lights. You have daylight discs, which are different than nocturnal lights. Radar visual, so if a fighter pilot was in the sky and he saw something strange on his radar, that could be one of these. And then you have close encounters of the first kind, which are encounters that are close enough to see detail. So there are a couple different things I've seen about what that would entail, but for sure it doesn't include anything extra. When I was researching this, there were some UFO sightings that would have fallen into the category of encounter of the first kind, except for the fact that they left behind something. One in particular left behind some odd stringy things that disintegrated, and that would actually fall under the category of encounter of the second kind, because first kind is only being able to see it from a short distance, which, interestingly enough, a really short blurb article on the Times of India say that it's within 150 meters, which 150 meters is 492 feet or 0.09 of a mile. So it would be a very close sighting, and you definitely would have to be able to see details on it. So that's kind of that. Have you ever had an encounter of the first kind, MoonDog? And sorry, I hit my camera.
Don't get too excited. I'd be smacking the camera.
Right, I'm just so excited. They're coming to take me. No, just kidding.
Well, so I have a question then, because with that description, when I was younger, and it was funny because my parents had a priest over to the house. They knew him, and we were having a barbecue and, playing music and stuff. And where we lived at that time was up against the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. And, excuse me. Anyhow, we were out there, and a few of us were standing out there talking, and we noticed along the foothills, just kind of in a row, all of a sudden a light popped up. And I think there's the Arizona lights, people call them. It was something like that, where all of a sudden, just out of the blue, because we're looking at the mountains, looking at the stars, beautiful, clear night, warm, you're not trying to hustle to get inside, and a light popped up, and then just sat there. And then after a couple of minutes, another one popped up. and that went up to like, I think we counted like 15 of those lights across the foothills, which would be quite an expanse. So anyhow, it would be UFO because it's unexplained. It was in the air, so it has to be flying or floating or something. So would that be an encounter of the first kind, even though we weren't within probably 429 feet or whatever that was?
So unfortunately, it would not be an encounter of the first kind. And that's kind of the issue I had researching this, is a lot of encounters are either like what you experience. And actually, if you go to the National UFO Reporting Center, which is not a government affiliated agency or anything like that, but they monitor sightings, the majority of their sightings are similar to that lights in the sky, formation of lights in the sky, strange object in the sky, but because you couldn't make any detail out other than lights, it is not considered an encounter of the first kind.
So saying it's a dud?
I'm not saying it's a dud.
What?
I'm
saying it?
I'm saying, I guess the best way to describe it is that you had a very, very minor experience with a UFO.
So I should have went bomb, 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 bomb. Then we'd have encounter of the fourth kind, correct? You don't even know what I'm talking about, do you?
I haven't seen that movie, but I know what you're talking about.
Or was that the third kind? I don't remember.
It's the third kind. Yeah, it is.
Maybe it's the fourth kind. I don't want to know.
I want to say there's a movie about the fourth kind, and it takes place in Alaska, and that's a trippy movie, and it's supposed to be based off a true story.
Ooh, I'll check that one out. Okay,
yeah.
So the first kind. So yeah, that's kind of disappointing because to me that would be a UFO of the first kind, because I mean there was definitely something there, and then I wanted to just say what that story was. I asked a priest, I'm like, what do you think that is? And do you believe in UFOs? And it was interesting because a man of the clergy, said kind of what I feel, and RulyWolf, I think you feel, is in that our universe is so huge. And then he brought up the Bible and said, it doesn't say there aren't aliens out there, thus bringing in UFOs with that. And it was weird, too, because we watched them go out, too. They sat there for a long time, and then just one by one went off, just like they came on. And it wasn't street lights or hot air balloons. A lot of people saw it that night. And of course, we were putting weather balloons up. I hear that one more time, I'm going to...
Right. And then I would find that disappointing, too, because I always was under the assumption that if you had an encounter of the first kind, it was a little more significant. I mean, having an encounter of the first kind is significant, but there are so many, and again, just definitely go check out, it's actually called, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, so I'm going to go with it. It's an acronym. It's NUFROC, the National UFO Reporting Center, and just look at the list of encounters people have had. It's super interesting, but most of them were like yours, MoonDog, where they were lights, or, just not very clear objects, but it wasn't a normal object either. So I was kind of disappointed because I thought that those would have more of an impact in the list of encounters, especially since that's what the majority of people encounter.
Right.
I found one story of a first encounter, and I'm sure if I spent, more time, but I've been looking for days and days to find more than just one encounter of the first kind, and it's so difficult. One of the more neat encounters I found was an encounter of the second kind, because it left behind something, so that made it... Yeah. So it was a little disappointing to find out that first encounters are so specific, I guess, is what I'm getting at. And kind of going back to what you were saying, MoonDog, I found an amazing quote that I absolutely love. So this is the quote. two possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe or we are not. Both are equally terrifying. And Arthur C. Clarke said that. And I don't think he could have said that better. If we're alone in the universe, which as far as we know is extensive and never ending, that's terrifying. That means we are the only sentient beings out there.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
that's terrifying. But at the same time, if there are UFOs, aliens, other sentient beings, that's terrifying too, because we know nothing about them. Are we too dumb? Like, they don't want to come down and say hi because we're too dumb? Or, what if they're terrifying and you see those horror movies?
Well, yeah.
And so there's just so much that is to be questioned. And I feel like it's a really pertinent quote when talking about things like this, because either scenario is kind of terrifying.
Yeah,
it really
think
is.
About it. Yep.
Yeah. So
it's like the it's just like the Men in Black with the little necklace with the universe or the galaxy. I'm sorry, the galaxy on it. So there's more people. There's more out there.
Oh, I believe it too. Well, I don't know. Maybe way back when they figured out how to travel into space and colonize planets. And
yeah.
You never know.
So now I feel like I've only seen 1/4 of an encounter of the zero doesn't matter kind.
But see, at the same time, there were so many reported sightings on Newfrock that I almost feel like they should go back and look at Hynek's rating categorization.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like meant to be this, it didn't matter if you just saw discs. It didn't mean anything, So it's a complicated thing, but a lot of folks out there see things that don't make sense. And I don't remember the statistics, but there was a fair amount that Hynek had determined were unexplainable. So he was he wasn't just some average Joe. And I think I mentioned in the last show with the Philadelphia experiment, not the last show, but with the Philadelphia experiment, I had mentioned that we would be talking about somebody who, was a well-respected person, and then because he became a ufologist, was kind of not looked at quite the same way. And I was actually talking about Hynek, because if you look him up, he's not noted for being an astronomer or having helped the U.S. government with this, technology that he did. He's known as the ufologist who came up with the encounter classification. And I find that to be kind of sad, because I feel like to a degree that takes away from everything else he did, because that was significant as well.
Right.
So,
well, going along that line, it's kind of funny now where the U.S. government is now trying to declassify, or they say they're going to declassify more about UFOs, when over the years, they, like I've said in other things, it's just a group of people have decided what the public gets to know and not to know. And anyhow, now they're declassifying it. So if he were to bring that up now, would it be a different look upon him and his career and what he's done? Or would he still be looked at as kind of a UFOologist, and so they just don't really do much with them?
And that's a good question. I was kind of reading about that the other day, and the Navy has come out and said that there are UFOs and that they don't want them to be called UFOs. And that I want to say, well, they want them to be called UAPs. Forgive me. I'm going to pull up my phone here. And
because it's just like they're declassifying Pluto because it's near your anus. What the hell? I'm just saying. I know that was random. It makes me mad when they do stuff like that, because this way, I feel like they're trying to wiggle out of, I don't want to say being responsible, but now it's like, okay, well, we don't want to call them UFOs because we want to talk in a different way so people don't know what we're talking about. Does that make sense?
Right. So what they want them to be called now is UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, not phenomenon, phenomena. And apparently they have a task force that was detailed in June 2020 at a U.S. Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. Man, I am getting tongue-tied tonight. My apologies.
I know.
And I keep bumping my camera, so I'm really sorry. So they have created this committee on it in the government, and they don't want us to call it UFOs. It almost feels like if they call it UFOs, people are going to panic. Or maybe not even panic, but they kind of still don't want it to be common knowledge. I don't know. It's weird.
It is weird, and I agree. It's odd, and there's a reason for it. Whatever, it is what it is. But sorry if I'm being a little cynical tonight.
It's been a day for all of us, I think.
Oh, both of us, I know.
Yes.
But so anyhow, continue on.
So on that note, I will talk about the one encounter I found, which again, it's not a lot, but it's really interesting. And if you guys have found an encounter of the first kind, let me know, because I was struggling hard. I've been looking, actually, I said days, but it's been weeks because we've been planning on this, because I would, if possible, I want to make this a series. So hopefully our next episode will be encounters of the second kind, because I at least have one story on that one. But it may turn into a conglomeration because I didn't realize how hard it was going to be to find an encounter of the first kind. As it was really hard to find a Hynix listing. I mentioned again in the Philadelphia experiment, I don't like using Wikipedia, and there were 3 places I could find a good or semi-detailed description of Hynix categorizations without buying his book, and that was Wikipedia. There was another page, I can't tell you off the top of my head, and it cited Wikipedia, and then the Times of India, and it had the small little, blip about encounters. So we'll see where this goes. But my one story for you tonight was in 1966. A sighting occurred at Westall Primary School over in Melbourne, Australia. Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, kind of in that area. And what happened was over 300 students and staff witnessed the event.
Ooh,
so,
wow.
It was a big sighting. And I saw some things online that said it was caused by radiation. But for the majority, they all had a similar story. It varied slightly, like how many, there were 300 people, so stories vary, and I don't know who said what. Some saw 1 aircraft, some saw 3, but that seems a little weird that they'd all be having the same radiation poisoning hallucination.
Well, I know, right?
That's a lot of people. Yeah. So, a science teacher from this school, Andrew Greenwood, was interviewed by James E. McDonald, who was actually a physicist, but he was also known for his UFO research. So during this interview, Greenwood told Dr. McDonald that a hysterical kid ran into his classroom freaking out because there was a flying saucer outside. And, he's a teacher at a primary school, and so he was just kind of like, whatever, kids will be kids. But this kid was so insistent that he went outside and decided to look for himself. And when he got out there, there was already a group out there. And so he joined the group, and there were some power lines, and he saw a UFO hovering close to the power line. Now, this UFO didn't leave any evidence behind, which would not make it a second encounter of the second kind, and it was detailed. He described it as being a round silver object about the size of a car with a metal rod sticking up in the air. Obviously, he didn't have a ruler to measure and be like, hey, are you 150 meters away from me? So I could have been farther away, but he noticed enough detail of it to notice the color. Some people said it was kind of like a shimmering silver, and he noticed that there was a rod on the top, so it was close enough for him to get detail. And he also told Dr. McDonald that 5 planes came and surrounded the UFO, and that they were kind of like chasing it, and it was the most spectacular flying he had ever seen. That was the only encounter of the first kind I could find. I have tried so hard to find another one, but all of them have some other detail in there that would make them an encounter of the second kind. So it was really frustrating trying to find it, because the average person isn't going to be able to see something at close range. A lot of the experiences people have with UFOs is lights in the sky. But, you know, Moondog, if you had been able to hop in your private jet and fly up there, you might have had an encounter of the first kind, because you could actually see detail. But if I do believe that if there are other beings out there watching us, they're going to be doing it from afar, and there will be very little opportunity to have an encounter of the first kind, because it almost feels like that would be giving away too much about themselves, if, you know, that makes sense.
It does to a point, but I also think, too, that there's going to be points. Well, take this example. How do you know the UFO with the rod sticking out of it was near power lines, was not pulling energy from the power line to recharge its batteries so it could take off and go wherever?
I mean, that's a good point. You never know.
Because then at some point you're going to have to, I mean, how do you, if you're an extraterrestrial being in a spaceship, flying saucer, how far away can you stay? I mean, people get curious and will get close to things to try to find more things out, find out stuff about whatever they're looking at. Why would UFOs, aliens?
Well, okay, that makes sense though. We have these awesome vehicles that'll go deep undersea so we can explore.
Yeah.
You know? So there's no reason not to explore, but everything, at least in our little planet, everything has a limitation. There is no, you know, unlimited gas, which would be great. I actually happen to drive a rather large monster-sized truck, so, you know, it'd be great if there was unlimited gasoline. But, you know, I can get from point A to point B in my truck, and then I have to refuel it. Its energy source only takes me so far. So it's not unreasonable to think that an alien from space isn't going to have to recharge its vehicle. Electric cars, you have to recharge electric cars. There is no completely ongoing, never-ending energy supply that we know of out there. And again, that was in the 60s. You know, who knows? If it was an alien, maybe they have a better power source now. A lot of things can happen in 60 years, less than 60 years.
Right. And again, you know, if the ship came down for whatever reason, you know, it may have thought it was an area that people wouldn't see it, and then somebody saw it and more people came out. Yeah, it's a very interesting thought of why would aliens be up in the air, staying way up high in the atmosphere and not coming down to Earth where we can see them.
They probably have pretty cool binoculars, that's why.
Yeah, I know. I know. Well, you know, let me put it this way. We always think that UFOs are these super high-tech vehicles, which they could be. But how do we know that, like you said, 40, 50 years ago, maybe they weren't so high tech?
Right. So inevitably, whatever civilizations could be out there, they're always going to be advancing, just like we are. There's never going to be a perfect, oh, we've reached perfectness. I think that's just because the way the universe works, stars explode and nothing is finite. And so I think personally that out there, any alien races are going to always be making progress. I mean, they might not make progress because I'm sure if, and I'm sorry for bringing this up again, but like the COVID pandemic, this happens consistently through our world. There was the bubonic plague, there was the Spanish flu, there's Ebola. It's not perfect. So it doesn't make sense that, there's going to be some race out there that doesn't have pitfalls of their own just because of whatever is out there. I don't think that there's anything perfect in the universe. So it only makes sense to me that whatever alien race out there is still developing just like us. And maybe, a couple thousand years ago, they were where we are at. And they know that if they were to talk to us or anything, it wouldn't go well because maybe that's what happened to them with a different alien race. Like, it's really complicated, I think. I don't think it's as simple as there's aliens out there and that's that.
Well, so now it got me to thinking. So, encounter of the first kind then, maybe that's it, that the UFOs are staying far enough away that they can't really be seen very often. And then if they are seen, by that time, people are too close or whatever, or they're trying to interact with us. And so now you get the second, third, fourth kind. So maybe that's why there's only a handful of just the first kind.
That's true.
Yeah.
That could be it. Yeah. I saw something else on top of the radiation poisoning. I saw something else saying that it was just...
I can't help laughing. We're sorry, people. You didn't really see what you saw. Radiation poisoning.
There was a gas leak.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
And my thing with the radiation poisoning is that usually with radiation there are other side effects. It's not just
I know.
Hey, oops, you got radiation poisoning. It's like, oh no, you have radiation poisoning. It's not like a gas leak where you hallucinate for a little bit and then feel terrible after. It's not the same thing. So
yeah.
One of the other theories is that it was like an experimental government plane.
Could be.
Which it could be that, but at the same time, it seems a little strange that if it was a government experimental plane, that you have 5 other military planes out there chasing it around.
Right.
If they're going to be doing training like that, there are more remote places that you're going to do. And I used to fly a little bit as a teenager through a program, and I can guarantee you, when you get in that plane, there are so many procedures you have to follow. You don't just get in a plane and get in the air, especially the military. There is no such thing as a simple flight in the air. You have to have flight plans, you have to follow flight patterns, and you can't just fly anywhere because they don't want planes crashing into planes. And so I find it a little bit improbable that it would be a government plane and that it accidentally flew over this school.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion on that.
No, I agree. Well, so let's go to the Navy releasing some video. Supposedly they released it. Other people said they did. And so the Navy had to cover. And again, I'm not saying conspiracy. I'm just throwing it out there. And people are calling it the flying Tic Tac. Have you seen that one?
I haven't.
It's been pretty popular. Anyhow, some Navy planes were chasing it, and it was going like super mega fast. And it was in the shape of a Tic Tac, of course, much larger. And it was maneuvering in ways you couldn't do if you're flying a plane. And the pilots are just like, what the heck is this? Anyhow, would that be considered encounter of the first kind? Because they're seeing it, they obviously got close.
So it depends on how close they got. If they could make out details of the ship, one of the encounters of a second kind. Oh, there I am bumping it again.
It's like jumping at them.
Out of control. One of the second encounters that I had read about, they were able to make out details, but it was a very smooth egg-shaped craft, and so that's more than just seeing lights in the sky, but there's not like a ton of detail on that. They can't say, well, there's a rod sticking out of the top, or it had 5 windows. So I think if they saw any detail or they got close enough, then it would be an encounter of the first kind. Do you happen to know if they saw any details or anything, or was it just kind of far away? And
I would say it was definitely farther away than the 400 plus yards. So that would disqualify it. It's like a really bad game, if you think about it. When he made the encounter of the first kind, it's like, it has to be within 459 yards or else. Well, I saw it was 520 yards. You lost. You're out. See you, bye.
Right.
Come on.
Sorry. Well, see, he came up with those, and apparently I didn't do the right thing and put down dates in my notes. And so I want to say it was back between the 40s and 50s. And during that time frame, there were a lot more sightings than there are now, which, fun fact, during the COVID pandemic, there have been a lot more sightings. Maybe it's because people are actually like taking their face out of there. So,
that could be, but I did not know that.
Yes, there have been more. It was started high and kind of tapered down and then kind of picked up again. But more sightings have been seen. So maybe there was more to it. Because, back during that time, there wasn't really TV. Phones were pretty basic. And I feel like there were less electronic distractions. And I say this because magazine and books are distractions, but you are more easily drawn away from those than you are from TV. Like, pay attention. Next time you're watching TV, you're more glued to it. And one of my favorite books calls it the opiate of the masses. Not masses, but masses. And it's so true. It's so easy to get sucked in and kind of, today, perfect example. Had a long day, was kind of stressed out, and I was like, I'm just going to turn on the TV because I can zone out and relax. And I can do the same thing with the book, but it's different. I'm more aware of what's going on in my surroundings, not situation, but my surroundings, because I don't have the noise of people talking. I don't have the background music in whatever I'm watching. I don't have the sound effects in whatever I'm watching, because, somebody punches somebody else in your book, you imagine it with your brain, and maybe you don't. Everybody reads different, but on the TV, they've added in that sound, because if you listen to how somebody punches somebody else on the TV, it's unrealistic. That's not what it sounds like in real life. It's actually really disappointing. It's more of like a slappy, floppy fish sound. It's not like, so-and-so is winning. It's like, oh, this is uncomfortable, But the television and things, and I know this is really ironic since we're talking to you through a video with, music in the background and us talking, but you really do get this like tunnel vision watching things. If you pay attention, you block out the surrounding sounds because there's so much going on with what you're watching. And so I believe that during those times when they were seeing all the sightings, it was when technology was kind of picking up. And, who knows? Maybe aliens were coming down to see what we had cooking because, technology's picking up. And it was too soon for a ton of TV. There were, telephones were pretty basic. And then you have this huge boom in technology, where you have cars just, ramping up in what they can do. And telephones ramping up in what they can do. I mean, they went from listening to records to having a cassette player to having, CDs to now you just have a little square thing that plays all of your stuff for you.
The square thing?
The phone. Rectangle. You're right. It's a rectangle.
Well, no, it's not even that. That's just funny. We have
you
the
have this
CDs,
little
we have this,
tiny-
we have that, and a square thing.
The square thing.
It's just like, sorry, called you out on that, but I had to.
Thank you. Keeping me honest.
It's like a rectangle. Is it a box of Captain Crunch?
But I mean, if you look at the size of a TV from the 50s compared to a cell phone now, and the things that a cell phone can do over a TV, it's no wonder that we aren't getting out there and looking out to see what weird things there are. And then now you have the pandemic, and you're stuck at home and you can't be around other people. So what do? You go outside more, TV gets boring after a while. So I think that there was a pinnacle of time between when technology was increasing, but it wasn't so distracting. And then they have all these sightings, which is really interesting. And I don't think that necessarily the things that people were seeing went away. I think it just became drowned out by all of the other things out there.
Oh, absolutely. And we've discussed that in other shows, that people have quit going outside as much. And even when they do, they're looking down at their phone and they're not paying attention. And there's a lot happening that people are missing out on. So you may be having an encounter of the first kind, but you're missing it. Get your phone out.
Well, I can't imagine. I can't even tell you how many times I can imagine it because I've seen it. I don't know why I started to say that. But I can't name how many times I've gone hiking because I live by some mountains and it's gorgeous. And there are people on their phones. They're listening to music, they're taking videos, they're taking pictures, and everybody's different. And sometimes it's really hard to be alone with your own quiet. But it takes away from everything you're seeing. And there are a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, but there are people out there who suggest that you take a week off every so often with no electronics because it fills your brain with so much noise that your brain has a hard time handling silence. And to just go out, go in the middle of nowhere, turn off all of your electronics for a week and let your brain kind of dump, and it not only helps you kind of separate from all of the chaos that happens with social media and things on TV and things on the news, but it gives your brain a chance to relax. And at first it's really difficult because your ears will ring, you'll have tinnitus in your ears, and it will be really hard to focus on things. But you'll also start noticing your surroundings, and at the end of the week or whatever you decide to do, however long, you'll feel happier and more content because you've kind of come to peace with yourself. I would love to do this, but I actually went camping and was kind of hoping I'd see or hear something this summer. And we went to a canyon and it was dead quiet. I'm used to camping and hearing a breeze in the trees or, like water, and it was so quiet and it kind of freaked me out. I didn't know what to do with the silence. And
that's interesting.
I just feel like if we separated ourselves more, we would know what to do more with the silence, and it would actually give us the ability to see more of what's going on around us.
Right.
So that's
exactly
a long spiel.
Well, I want to say about the, just any encounter with UFOs and stuff. Out of other things we've talked about, things like that, I've had a lot of experiences, but with UFOs. So go to the first, for that definition, haven't ever seen anything like that. And I've been out in the deep woods, and I don't know if I've been to places where the UFOs are. Which, RulyWolf, you need to come out here so we can go to the UFO tower.
Yes. I'm
for sure
really, really hoping that things start evening out because there are a lot of things I want to do that I can't in good conscience. I have, asthma and stuff, and I just don't even want to find out if I would be okay if I got COVID.
Yeah. I've never, like I said, I've seen things that I can't explain, but I've never had anything that I was like, oh, I've definitely seen an alien spacecraft, a UFO, an encounter of the first kind, or any other. So this one is an interesting topic that we're going to continue on. Next time will be the second encounter, obviously.
Yes. And I just want to throw this out there. MoonDog has more experience than I do. I've never seen any type of UFO personally. Not flying discs, not nocturnal lights. I get all of the weird, creepy stuff. So that's great.
I mean, I've seen things, like I said, I saw those lights, and that's not the first time. But it's something where I can't, say for sure it was an alien craft. Certainly was weird and fun to watch, but yeah, I haven't been like some of these other people who see those UFOs. So other things, yeah, I've seen other things, but
yeah, it's a big world.
Well, hopefully,
it feels small, but it's big.
Maybe this summer we go down south, like head towards Santa Fe and stuff. There's stuff down there too. For some reason, south like in Colorado is the San Juan Mountains or the Sawatch Range of mountains, and if I remember correctly, Sawatch is a Indian name, it is. So anyhow, there is some strange stuff that happens down there UFO wise. So it'd be kind of cool to get out there and see if we could see something, just some good activity. In fact, I know somebody, and I tried to get him to come on the show, and I don't think he will. But he drives down there, and if you go down to, I just drew a blank. Sorry, I've been up since 6 o'clock this morning. It is now 12:30 at night, so yeah, I'm a little tired. But if you go to the Anasazi dwellings, kind of out by Cortez, that area in Colorado, he says the people there tell him the stuff they see, and he's seen it. And he said, I flat out can't tell you what it is. He goes, I can tell you this, I'm a skeptic, and I'll say right away, it's just an airplane or something, but he's like, not what I saw. And the way, these objects reacted, he's like, it's bizarre. So yeah, we should try to head down there because it's a hot spot. South of Colorado, kind of southwest.
Yes, and if we head down there, we will absolutely take a camera and a video recorder and try and get something spectacular to show you guys. If not, then we'll come back with a very boring story about how we tried to go UFO hunting and found nothing.
We couldn't find any fast food to eat. Rainy, it was wet. No, I'm just kidding.
We saw mountain lions, but no Bigfoot.
I think I'd rather go up against a mountain or a Bigfoot over a mountain lion. Not up against, just I'd rather see a Bigfoot than a mountain lion. That means it's too close.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Anyhow,
big kitty doesn't want to play.
we went off track.
We did.
A little bit. But yeah, okay, so that was very interesting information. I did not know that about the first kind, and I certainly am surprised at the definition. Was a little disappointed, now not so much.
Well, I'm glad I could teach you something. Hopefully I taught everybody else a little something. If I did not, let us know what you know that I don't know. And let us know if you've ever had an encounter of the first kind, or any encounter for that matter. We'd love to hear it. Everybody has such unique experiences, and nobody's experience is boring. I love, and I know MoonDog loves to hear all about it. So definitely let us know. MoonDog, do you have anything else you want to touch on? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'm just double checking.
I don't, but thanks for asking.
All right. And in that note, we hope. All right. I'm not going to go on. I don't want to get in trouble for saying something I'm not supposed to. Anyway, so hit the bell notification so you know when we have another weird, crazy, awesome episode out for you to watch and listen to. Subscribe. We love having people who are interested in all of the crazy things that may or may not be out there. And if you have any comments, we love to hear them. Absolutely. Leave us a comment. We also have an Instagram, which you can find us at Shadow Talkers. And MoonDog for sure is very active on there. I try to be active on there too, but I'm working on it and I will be more active. But we are active on there. And until next time, friends, explore the shadows.